Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of how to make and publish your first ever video game. Today we're going to be looking at adding enemies to our character and adding a score system so we can actually work for something in the game rather than just stand there as it is right now. Okay, let's get started. So first of all, we need to add in our enemies, and right now our character can jump only when it's grounded, but we want it to actually have a challenge. So we're gonna go over to our sprites tab or wherever your enemies are, and then we're just gonna drag that in, scale it up, and as you can see, it's blurry. So we're gonna click delete, and we're gonna change this from the sprite mode from single to multiple. So now, since we have multiple sprites, if it's just a single sprite, you don't have to do that. But we're gonna do a filter mode, a point no filter, resize algorithm to build liner. And now in the sprite editor, we just wanna do an automatic slice, apply, and we can click on that little triangle right there and drag them on in. So let's go ahead and size that up a bit. That looks about good. All right, so now we're going to position it in what we want. So as you can see, if we put it inside of the camera, that little box, you can see it. And no matter where we move it, that's where you're gonna see inside the camera. And we want it to make to move, but we don't want it to just move back and forth. We want it to actually look like it's rotating. And that we're gonna do that outside the camera. So you can see if we drag it out of that black box, we drag it back in, you can see it. And if we drag it out, it is invisible. And that's kind of the little trick we're going to be doing in this. We're going to be making it so outside of the camera. You might want to make it like farther because different devices have different screen size. If this is not a WebGL game, if it's a WebGL game, then we're going to be talking about that in next episode though, about publishing, but we won't have to worry about it. So if we go to Windows, Animation, and Animation, once again, as you can see, I brought up this window. First, we're going to rename our enemy to Rocket because that's what it is. And we want to make sure we're clicking on the rocket before we do anything in the animator tab. So we're going to click create, and you can see it brings up this files window, and you can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call this animation rocket. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this record button later on, not yet, because first we want to drag in our sprites. So I'm just holding down shift or control and clicking every single one of them, and then I'll just drag them all in. And now you can see it animates, but it's a little fast, so we're just gonna drag that blue bar out. If that blue bar doesn't show up, that means you clicked opposite, so just highlight all of them, or click on all of the little keyframes, which is what they're called. And you can see the slower you do it, the slower it animates. Now we want to make sure it actually moves. So we want to pick a starting position when we press the record button. Make sure you press that red button. And so that's the starting position, and maybe at maybe 2 would probably work. That means 2 seconds. We want it to move all the way to this side. So now if we restart it and then just press play, you can see it moves. So this is really good, but you can see the actual rocket animation that we did is not lasting as long. So we can just use a highlighter to pick up all of those and just drag it out. So now the animation is slower, but you can see that it animates all the way through and not just at the start. And now we want it to go back in the other direction. So here, if we click on our rotate tool, we want it to be rotating about here. That's a rotate position. I'm going to make that Z0 just to make sure that it's right on point. And then over about when it reaches the other side, we want it to rotate, make sure 0 on the T first, and then we want it to kind of flip over. So we can flip over, and we'll round that to -180 because that is very close to -180 degrees over on the right side. And now you can see it goes that way and then it rotates. So you cannot see the rotation outside the camera, but it is going on. But you just think it's like another thing. It's another rocket that's coming from the other side, because after it rotates, we want it from maybe about 4, a little over 4. We want it to move that way. So now it rotates and moves back that way, and you can see it automatically repeats itself. So this is what it looks like in the game tab. I'll move that to the side. You can see you can't actually see the rotation, so it looks like it's just coming onto the other side, and it looks really good. You can just drag things out, just highlight everything, drag it out to make it slower or faster. But I think this is probably pretty good for now. So now we want to add a component to this, to our rocket. So make sure we're calling a rocket, and we're going to add component a box collider 2D. You can just go ahead and search that up, and we want to make it a trigger. So we're just going to select that is trigger, and now we want to add a new script to it. So we're going to call this script collide. So when it collides with the slime, that's what it's going to do. So create an add, and then it should be in our assets right here. If we just click on here, right there. So we're going to go ahead and open that up into Visual Studio. And now it's our third script. So you can see we have our ground check script and our jump script next to it on the top. And this is our new script. So first we're going to create a void, and we're going to do an on trigger enter 2D. So when it triggers, or when it collides with something, but as a trigger, it doesn't actually collide. It can go through objects, but still trigger something. So void on trigger enter 2D, and in here we want to make sure we're using Unity engine.scene manager. If you just write scene manager, it should just come up. But we want to do scene manager.load scene sample scene, which is what the scene is called. So pretty much it will just restart the game. That's really what we're doing. And there are other ways if you want to make it to go home screen. If we create another scene, then you can just plug that in where I put sample scene. So we're going to hit Control S to save and go back into Unity. Okay, so let's see how this works now. So since our character has a collider and the rocket has a trigger, when it collides, it should restart. So you can see it restarts the game. It might be a little hard to see, but when we have a score system, it will be easier. So yeah, it kind of just, it looks like he's like doing a little jump, but that's really just our character's starting position. So we're gonna reset the scene. It goes to the starting position. I probably want to make this a little longer time because I think that's a little slow. And over here, we want to make it animate throughout. So we're just gonna hit Control C, and then we're gonna click over here, Control V. So now it should be like still animating, because it only animates for the first half at the moment. So if we go hit play now, our animation is already longer, so it's slower. And sorry that it's a little glitchy here. It's just because I'm screen recording. It shouldn't be in your actual game. And I promise that my game is running smooth right now. It's just a screen recorder that's doing that, because when it runs, it uses a lot of memory and CPU. So yeah, that just makes things a little slower. But first, we're gonna make sure we want to create a UI text. And where's that text? There it is. Okay, you can see it looks way too big, but that square you actually see, that's the same thing as a camera. It's just because, you know, if you have so much stuff, it just makes it easier to manage text separately from game objects. So you can see the text is actually tiny right there in the top bottom left corner, and if we move it, you can see it will move onto the game, and we're gonna move it like I don't know, but you see if we move it down there, and if we move it off the canvas, then it will work the same as a camera. So we want to resize this, but you can see that is the blurriest thing on earth. We don't want it to be blurry. How I fixed the blurriness is I changed the horizontal overflow to overflow, vertical overflow to overflow, and then the font size is something like 300. And you can see it's sharp now. So now if we just scale that down, you can see we have sharp text, which is exactly what we want. And when we click on the text, this is where we edit it. So we're gonna move this to the top left corner, and over here in the little text thing, we can choose what it says. I want to make it 0 because that's gonna be your point. It will start at 0. So you can see it's in the top corner. I might want to move that a little bit more. That looks about good. And the color I just changed to white over there. And now we want to make this actually work. So Control S to save. And yeah, we can probably start adding a script to it. And I will just call this score. So new script, create an add. Okay, so now we have our score script added to our text. And if we go ahead, open that up into our script editor. It's not yet, we have to open it. Right there. Okay, so now you can see this is our fourth script we're gonna be adding, and it's called score. And this is pretty much just gonna make the text go up, but once again, when we die, it will reset the scene, making the text go back to 0. So public text we're gonna want, and we want to make sure it's using Unity engine.ui. It should just do it automatically like it did for me, but if it's not, just add that at the top. So public text score, I'm gonna call that score because it's what? I don't know why this is giving me an error. So let's just try to rewrite it. Okay, I don't know what happened because I know you can write it. I mean, it's technically not right to write it uppercase. I mean, it depends on what type of writing you're using, but I don't know what that was. But anyways, we're gonna use a public float amount and a public float, and I'll go ahead call this score update. So this will update the score. We have that amount of score, and then we have the actual score text itself, which is the text we just saw. So in void start, we're gonna say amount is equal to, and we'll say 0f, so 0 floats 0, and that should display 0 once we use strings, and then our score update is going to be equal to 10 floats. Yeah, we have 10 floats now. And then in void update, we're gonna say score. Let's see. So score, we want to make sure that's our score dot text is a text object is public text. We want to set that equal to an int, which is an integer. That's any whole number. Any number, it can be a negative, positive, anything. Integer times our amount, and then we're gonna add our text. So the text will say nothing because we could put 0 in there. I don't know if we could. No, we couldn't because it's not always gonna be 0. It's always gonna be changing. But we're just gonna say amount, and we're gonna plus equals. So when we add a certain amount, it should equal our score update. And multiplied by time.delta time. We will want to make sure we get that in there. And that should be pretty good. I think that should work. So now if we start, you can see, oh, we did not assign anything. So we want to make sure our text is our actual text. So we're gonna drag that in onto there. And then, let's see. Okay, yeah, it works. So now, it moved up. We can change some of the values, like score update. Maybe 10 is too much. If we want to make it slower, we can change some of those values, or make it faster. We can also change some of those values. And now we're just gonna go to the camera, and then we're gonna make sure it's solid color background, and I changed it to a lighter blue so it looks a bit better. And this is really it for our game. So thanks for coming along. There still is gonna be one more episode of publishing the game, for me publishing it to itch.io. But you can see this is our game, and I think it looks really cool. Definitely a great starter game. Once again, sorry for how glitchy it's getting. Once again, the screen recorder, not the game. But this is our game, and you just made your first video game. Like, you should be pretty excited right now because it is exciting. It's like you've made a video game, and yeah. So, anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you for all of you who have stayed for the entire series. It really does mean a lot to me because this series I really want to help people, and it's my first really tutorial series. And if you did finish your game, something you can say. So last time we said speed if you want in the next video. How about if you finish this game, everything's working well, how about put fun somewhere in your text, and then if you need help, if something in your game's not working, you can just tell me what it is in the comments, and I'll try to fix it. You can also come on Discord, and yeah. So anyways, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this series as much as I am making it. Once again, still one more, but this is really finishing up for the actual game. I know this video was a lot longer, so if you have stayed till the end, thank you a lot, because this is like a 16-minute video. And for you staying all the way through, that's very kind. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.